Okay.
Good afternoon.
All right, B.
Good afternoon and welcome. Here in the South, this is truly one of those great getting up mornings. Because it is so good to be out and to be among our friends. And at Worldreader, we count you all as our friends. Whether we're meeting you for the first time today, we've had the pleasure of working with you in other lives. But we know that there's less than 6 degrees separation among almost all of us in the room.
Yeah.
So we are so pleased to share with you a partnership of people who truly care and truly act. And that's Read with Malcolm. You'll learn more about Malcolm later, but I would like to turn it over to someone that I truly love. And that's Donna Lowry, and she's going to serve as our moderator today.
Well, thank you. And I'm just thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled to be out. And I'm thrilled that I get to sit at the table not only with David, but 2 athletes, and I get to go home and tell my husband that. I'm like thrilled about that. So I'm excited also because we're talking about reading, and I'm an avid reader. I always have a book going, sometimes 2, because when I walk, I do an audiobook. So I call that reading too, of course. But I always have a book going. And the other thing I'm excited about is that I'm a Girl Scout leader. I have been for about 12 years. And right now, in my dining room are 2 huge boxes with tiny libraries. My Girl Scout troops, and we're getting ready to put 2 tiny libraries in the city of South Fulton. And I am thrilled that one of the first books we'll be able to put in those tiny libraries after they decorate them and get the smell of cedar out of my house, is this book, Malcolm's book.
Yeah.
So we will be putting these in our tiny library. So thank you for this,
That's
and we
awesome.
are getting more to help support your organization.
Awesome.
So I'm thrilled about being a part of this, and I am excited about the conversation. I always like when I get to ask the questions because I get to ask the things I really want to know, and I hope that you all want to know about what we're talking about today, and that is reading. And the main thing is the learning loss that this pandemic has caused with students. As you know, some of you may know that I, for 30 years, worked at 11 Alive, and I was the education reporter. I had the privilege of getting the chance to go into classrooms all the time, and we honored a teacher once a week, and I love that. I know the passion it takes to teach students, but I also know, excuse me, that every teacher will tell you that it really does begin at home, and it does really begin with that love of reading. So the impact of COVID on instruction and learning has been tremendous. It's been unbelievable. Chester E. Finn Jr., I found this quote. He's the president emeritus of the Thomas B. Fordham Institute. He calls it a learning catastrophe. Learning catastrophe. And then with the Gates Foundation, they said learning loss has been disastrous for children across the developing world. So we know what Worldreader is about. We know what Malcolm is about. We're going to hear more, but it's focusing on students, on learning, on that basics, the basics that reading provides for everybody. The projections of learning loss and adverse impact on children in underserved and under-resourced communities is alarming. And because reading is the foundation of all learning, if we can get and then keep children reading, there's a chance to mitigate the impact that this pandemic has had on everybody. It'll help increase their opportunities to have success across every major index in the future. Just reading, just something that seems simple, but we know is not always so simple to get those books out there and then to get the kids reading. So let's get started. So I'm going to recognize and seat our thought panel, leadership panel, and I'm excited because I know some of these people who, though they may not remember even meeting me. Davita Morgan, she is Washington President and CEO of First Readers and the First Foundation. Welcome, let's bring her up. And you may not remember this, Felisa, but you received a Community Service Award from 11 Alive. You do remember, I was there. I was applauding. I met you then. Felisa Urbana is the Chief Executive Officer of Sur Familia. Please welcome her. These are your seats. You're in a good place. These seats are for the gentlemen who are coming in. So, yeah. But they wanted me to bring you on. And then we're going to have to tell you that one of the people that we'd hoped would join us, Sandeep Gill, had to travel to India unexpectedly. And so she is not here, but we ask that you keep her and her family in your thoughts. Thank you. So, next I get to bring in these two gentlemen who I had a chance to meet, and I've been doing my homework, and they're so impressive. I feel like I know them because I've been watching their videos, and trying to keep up with everything they're doing and saying, well, didn't I know them ahead of time? So we want to bring up first Malcolm Mitchell, who is founder and CEO of Read with Malcolm, the Read with Malcolm Foundation. He's all mic'd up and ready to go, and so is David Risher, who is the CEO and co-founder of Worldreader.
Okay.
There we go.
Thank you very much. This one.
Okay, yes. So we're going to get started on a conversation, but I want you to know there are blank cards at your tables, and that we want you to start thinking of questions that I may not ask, that you will, we'd love to have you ask at the end. So a hostess will pick them up and bring them up here to me. So as we get started with this.
All right.
So, David and Malcolm, before we focus on all the essential stuff we're going to talk about and all the things that you guys have been doing and the partnerships and the collaborations and all that, I want to talk about your passions that got you where you are and your guiding principles that led you to that. So, Malcolm, let's start with you a little bit. Some people know your story, some people don't, but give us a few pointers on what's been going on with you, led you here.
Well, let me address something that is of extreme importance before I begin. It's football season in the South. And if you're a Florida fan, matter of fact, if you're a fan of anyone else besides what I'm representing here today, don't mention it. We will ruin the conversation. I'm happy to be here. This is awesome. You're great. You're great. You're great. This room is full of great people. And I'm just appreciative that I get to have a seat in this room with all of you. My name is Malcolm Mitchell. I grew up in Valdosta, Georgia. And just like many kids in my community, I did what was most natural, and that's gravitate towards sport. And while sport has had a tremendous impact on my life, has taught me some intangibles like accountability, responsibility, dedication, and hard work, many kids in my community don't fully understand the importance of an education. It could be due to environmental challenges. We all know that most of us are a representation of what the people before us experienced, and before them, what they experienced. So throughout my childhood, I gravitated towards sport and kind of neglected education. But once I got to the University of Georgia, I had a moment to pause and to think deeply about the decision I had made. And what I realized, and I'm not sure how I missed this as a child, that if I gave my brain the same amount of attention I was giving my body as an athlete, it would take me to similar places. Growing up in poverty, the thing that you want more than anything else is not to be there. The thing that you want most is to take care of your family, to have financial stability, to be have social mobility, to be able to interact with many different people, to feel valued, to feel valuable. And for most of us, we thought entertainment and/or sport was the only way to do that. But I realized that reading could also equip me with the tools necessary to be productive in society. And I looked back on my community, and I looked at my friends, I looked at my family, and I realized we missed that message somewhere along the line. And somewhere the lines were blurred, and we did not understand that reading could really set you free, that it could expose you to a life that extended beyond the immediate obstacles that you face daily. And there are challenges that come with living in that environment, but reading helps you see past those. And once I realized that, it became very important to me to reach back to my community, to reach back to my friends, to my family, the people that I saw suffering that did not understand this tool could unlock the door to any opportunity that you wanted. So with some friends that I love, trust, and respect, I created Share the Magic Foundation 2016 after I graduated from Georgia. I became an author, and I've dedicated my life to making sure that kids understand they can unlock their fullest potential through reading. And I believe that's what has brought me here today.
Thank you. It's wonderful to have you talk about reading, despite the bling, and the hat, you know, all the things. But to recognize that is this guiding principle for you to focus on reading. So we appreciate you for that. But we do like seeing the Super Bowl ring. We do like seeing it. Yeah. David, so let's hear from you in terms of what brought you here.
Yeah, for sure. So first, thank you guys all for being here. I mean, I love Bee's introduction and how you're all friends of ours now, and I feel the same way about you. So thank you so much for being part of this, and thank you, Malcolm, for being here. It's wonderful to hear your story. I mean, for me, it was personal too. It's in a way similar, in another way very, very different. So I got lucky. I was raised by a single mother in Washington, D.C., Bethesda, Maryland, actually. And when she and my father split up, we didn't have a lot of money. She would say to us, we're not poor, we just don't have a lot of money. And so she had to get herself busy figuring out how she was going to support my brother and me, the three of us. So she decided to become an encyclopedia salesperson for a while. Remember encyclopedias?
Yeah. I still have mine.
You still have yours?
No, I don't.
You don't, exactly right. It's an early version of Wikipedia. Early version is like a preview of Wikipedia back in the day. Is the first internet. That was it. And she sold World Book encyclopedias door to door to figure out a way to get food on the table, but also to figure out a way for my brother and me to be able to read and learn about the world. When we were kids, I mean, some of my most precious memories were of my mother dropping us off at the local public library so that we could read while she would go and do the shopping at Giant Food in DC, and we'd come back with a big stack of books, and that's how my brother and I learned about the world. So I got lucky in that way. I understood the power of reading early. I was, I can't even compare myself as an athlete to you, but I was nothing like the athlete you are. So anyway, but reading was a little bit of my superpower. It's what helped me get through college. It's what helped me get to business school and Microsoft and Amazon, and that's a whole different story. So when I look at it in the micro, for me, incredibly important, life-changing. Wouldn't be where I was without it. When you look at it at a society level, it's transformational. I mean, you were saying this, Donna. This is like, you cannot be your best self unless you're a reader. If you are a reader, you will be more prosperous. You will make more money in your life. You will be healthier. So here's a statistic. A child born to a literate mother has a 50% greater chance of living past age 5 than a child born to an illiterate mother. Right? It's stunning. So you will be healthier. You will be more safe as a society. So here's another interesting story. So there is a company that builds prisons in the United States. You know how they decide the size of the prison to build in a community? They look at the literacy rate of that community. So the lower the literacy rate, the bigger the prison. So you will have empathy, and empathy is more important than ever now, right? There is no way we can live in this world without understanding other people and where they come from, and reading allows you to do that. You can think of it as a low-cost ticket to explore the world. So that's what it was for me, but that's what it is for society. There is no way for us to become our best selves without being able to read. So about 12 years ago, a friend of mine and I got together, and we sort of looked at this convergence of things, this idea that technology was getting more and more prevalent, and someday everyone would have a cell phone. We looked at the importance of local language reading, and we can talk more about that later if you want to. And we just came up with this idea of Worldreader. Let's use technology and local books, relevant books to kids all around the world, and let's figure out if we can get 1 billion people reading. That was the challenge we started for ourselves. And I am pleased to tell you that just as of yesterday, 2 days ago, Melanie, I think this is it, we just passed our 19th million reader 10 years or 12 years into it. So that's right.
Wow, so let's take it from there. 19 million readers. Yeah. And so when it comes to collaboration and this conversation, we're talking about partnerships and collaboration.
Yes.
So let's go from there. And you've worked with quite a few partners to get where you are.
Yeah.
So what's the Worldreader approach to a partner like Read with Malcolm?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, let's think about it for each one of us. I mean, think about, let's say, how you were. So Malcolm, you've told me the story before, sort of how you got inspired to read, right?
Correct.
Remind us of that, actually. Give us 30 seconds on that.
Well, it came through a series of events. Most of it was through cultural relevancy. There are people that I looked up to that I began to explore and kind of peel back the layers of how they got to where they were in life. And I quickly connected the dots that reading kind of bridged the gap between what they did not know and what they did know, and how they could use that to elevate themselves to the next plateau. The best example I have is, as all millennials, I went to YouTube to solve my problem. It may have been 2 a.m., way too late, but I was a college student and I was looking up videos of Jay-Z, who, or maybe some of you may know him as Beyonce's husband, but, and I was just looking up rap videos. I enjoyed his music. And you know, like on YouTube, there's a sidebar that kind of shows you another video and populates another video. And after about an hour of doing this, a video pops up and it's Jay-Z sitting down with some fat white guy. And he's talking about a book. Now later I found out this fat white guy was Warren Buffett. So, and he's talking about a book he had wrote. Now, Jay-Z had never quoted reading a book in his lyrics. He had never talked about being interested in going to college. He had never talked about the importance of being literate and learning how to put words together. So when I watched that interview, it kind of collided with the perspective I had growing up as a child. And that one moment kind of exposed me to this new idea. And that new idea was reading.
So think about what Malcolm just said. So in order for him to get inspired, he saw a video, as we all do. It involved Jay-Z, so that involves music, that involves record labels, that involves that whole scene, and he kind of took it from there. Think about how each one of us got inspired, right? So I was inspired by my mother. I mean, I really was, and having her read. You guys remember the book Goodnight Moon? Remember that book? Okay. Actually, let's check that out. You guys remember? So in a great green room, there was a telephone. Do you remember that? And a red balloon and a picture of. Anyone remember? Cow jumping off the moon. Anyway, that was my mother. I mean, and she was like a reader to me. So that was my inspiration. But maybe it was a scout leader who inspires you. Or maybe it is a community organizer. Or maybe it's a favorite teacher. Or maybe it's a friend. Maybe someone's saying, you got to read this new Harry Potter series or whatever it is. So we have to work collaboratively. There's no way to do it alone. Because otherwise we just can't. We don't have the platform. We don't have the inspiration. Let me tell you real fast. In order for us to get kids reading, we focus on 4 things. And it goes A, B, C, D. So the A stands for access. You got to provide access to kids, right? It's not just about going to a library, it's not just about going to a bookstore. A lot of kids don't have that. But what every child now has, basically, and every family has, is a cell phone. So we're very focused on building very easy to use apps that can show up on even a low-end cell phone and can have a whole library of books in them. So that's a big focus of ours. And that requires partnership. We got to partner with publishers and so forth and so on, and tech companies. The B stands for books. We got 15,000 books. We've been doing this now for 12 years. These books are in English, they're in Spanish. By the way, because we work around the world, they're in Hindi, they're in Kiswahili, they're in Arabic, and they're books that are relevant. Actually, where's Reginald? Reginald, I just met. Okay, so Reginald just came. Okay, one of our books is a book called Kofi Has Malaria, a book from a Ghanaian publisher. Very relevant if you're in Ghana, right? You wake up in the morning and you have a fever, and this is pre-COVID, you might well have malaria. So it's a kid's book. Reginald just told me a story when we were walking in about how he was inspired by reading that book and wrote a book called Somebody Has COVID. Reggie, your son. Reggie has COVID. So that's the B, right? It's like you take books, you make them culturally relevant to people, and that inspires people. So that's the B. A is for apps and access, B is for books. C is for continuous engagement. You got to keep kids engaged, and we have all sorts of strategies for reaching out over their cell phone and reaching out in various different ways in their community. And then D is for data. Listening to the data that we get back and seeing what do kids read, when do they read, how long do they read, and so forth. Every one of those things requires collaboration. And one of the sayings we have internally, it's actually a saying I first heard in Kenya when I was there many years ago, is if you want to go fast, you can go alone, but if you want to go far, you go together.
I love that, especially after coming out of the Olympics and seeing all the other
Yeah, the Kenyans go fast.
They do.
Yeah.
So you have a reading bowl. You do a lot with your foundation, and one of them is reading bowl. So let's talk about this collaboration, this partnership with Worldreader, and how important it is to what you're doing.
Right. Well, David's absolutely right. There's another statistic that over 60% of kids in diverse low-income communities don't have age-appropriate books.
Yep.
If you take that statistic and then you tag on a new statistic that has been uncovered, it's 25% of individuals in low-income communities don't have the technology needed to prevail. So that tells me that more students have iPhones than they have print.
Yep.
Right? So we talk about access, exposing kids to book ownership, whether that's through a tangible book or through a digital ebook, is of extreme importance. And because we know more of them have more phones than anything else, providing those resources for them is important. And that's why this partnership is giant for my foundation, making sure that those 70,000 plus kids who do participate in Read Bowl are exposed to those resources so they too can read to a better future. I think what has helped us in terms of generate participation in our programs is that I take a very personal approach to the things that we do. I'm 28 years old, so looking back 10 years ago to figure out what I liked and what I disliked isn't terribly difficult. I know the things that I was attracted to that I'm still attracted to. I know the things that would have made me interested or encouraged me or inspired me, and I kind of take that same approach with our programs. And one of those things is gamification.
Yep.
Right? I come from a team environment playing sport my whole life, but really creating an atmosphere for collaboration, for teachers to use our platforms in such a way that encourage the kids to work together, that the only way to prevail and the only way to win is to work together. And that's an approach that we take to our virtual reading challenges. But there's something else that Ann and I, some of you have met Ann, talk about daily, and that's inspiration, right? Because you can provide the tool, and you can even teach the individual how to use the tool. And in this conversation, books, whether it's tangible or digital. But I remember that process being terribly difficult as a 19, 20-year-old in college trying to open a book and read. I already understood its importance. Someone told me how to do it, but when I opened that book and I struggled, I closed it and said, I'll be okay without it. But what's going to make that child go back and try again? And then try again and try again, because it's practice that makes an individual good at anything. And what I like to think we're doing, and what I think this partnership would do, is make more kids practice. Yep. And with practice, they may not hit perfection, but they will get better. And when they get better, we'll see the results of that through those statistics that you talked about.
There's no question. The more you read, the better you read. Can I tag on to that for just a second?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we were having a conversation last night with Dennis Scott over there, D3 in the corner. Round of applause for that guy. Thank you very much.
Yes.
But I hope you don't mind my saying this, Dennis, but Dennis has got a line of shoes coming out. Are you wearing them, by the way? No, those are not there. Okay, they're not produced yet. But anyway, I know, they're not produced yet. He's working on it. But anyway, he's got a line of shoes coming out. And we were talking about, to this idea of inspiration, Malcolm, you got to figure out a way. It's not just about the mechanics of reading, it's about getting kids excited about it. Yeah. And so if you can imagine a world where every 100 books you read on the Worldreader platform, including your books, maybe you get a pair. I'm roping Dennis into this strategy right now, by the way. Just so you understand what's happening here. That you get a free pair of his shoes. So the kids get to see that they're wearing Dennis Scott shoes, and they say, how did you get those shoes? And the answer is, well, I read 100 books. That's what sort of inspires, gets that some inspiration going and gets kids kind of excited about it. So anyway, super excited about the partnership. I just got to say one more thing.
Yeah.
You're 28 years old?
I'm 28.
Okay, I'm 56 years old. So here's another reason, which is twice, okay, just to be clear. So I'm twice the guy's age. So this is why, another reason why this is so important. I can't get done what I'm going to get done at 56, but I can get it done maybe if I work with a 28. Anyway.
Well, and again, going back to the team aspect of things that you mentioned, it's if I go at this alone, I may be able to reach one child. If we go at it together, we may be able to reach 100, right? And that's the way teamwork works, right? How much can I do by myself versus how much can I do with the help of others? And if everyone decides to join forces and help, we will get the attention of more kids. And maybe my programs. If I go into a room of 5 children, maybe my program attracts one of them. But if we go in that room together, if they're not attracted to my program, maybe they're attracted to yours. And now we've reached 3 to the 5. And to me, that's the point. It's maximizing the amount of participation and inspiration that we can effectuate together.
Love it.
And if the end goal is to get more kids reading, I don't care if they read with Malcolm, or if they use Worldreader, forgive me, or if they use, we'll leave it at that because we're up here right now. But
And no other choices.
it's just, I'll stop before I get too passionate. That's the point. How do we get more of them, more kids reading?
That's great.
And that's the end goal.
I don't know why I had this vision of, this shoe set going on sale and you're outside reading while people are going into, those long lines to get your shoes. I don't know. I just feel like there's some collaboration maybe.
It's a good
going on
vision,
there.
and everyone's got a phone. Everyone's got a
That was
phone.
your idea.
Yep.
And that's the thing about it. We know with underserved communities, there's a lot of, they're moving around a lot.
That's
They
right.
always have those things with them.
That's right.
So I want to thank you both as we can continue. Your work is impressive. That you're doing. So many organizations in this room are doing the same thing. And then we have leaders of 2 organizations with us that I want to bring in. Organizations that are going outside to beyond the classroom to help out. So let's get started with these 2 ladies who, I know you thought we were forgetting you, but we're not. We're not. You're doing
We're
such
enjoying the
impressive work. I know, it's really good. I'm taking lots of notes. But Lisa, your organization, Sur Familia, you work to strengthen Latina families and through a variety of education initiatives. How surprised were you to hear there's a Spanish collection among the host of other languages on the Worldreader platform, and plus the diversity served by Read with Malcolm?
I was very pleasantly surprised because that is sadly not the norm. Many programs are not available to our Latino community. And we were talking at the table before that if you add the layer of many of our families being undocumented or mixed status, there's a whole set of barriers. During the pandemic in particular, the loss of learning for Latinos has been greater than for kids of other races and ethnicities. So there is a great opportunity there for us to engage these families and these kids back into reading and education, because we're extremely concerned that we're going to see tremendous numbers of kids leaving school because they feel so alienated and so behind.
Yeah, talk about some of the challenges with literacy that you face with the students you work with.
One of them was, they did not have online access. There was a lot of information about, companies giving out free internet access, but many families had to sign for a year of services and they didn't have a social security number to do that. Then you had issues of parents that, did not have literacy themselves to help the kids. The kids were hungry. I remember during the last summer, we had an issue with the air conditioning unit of one of our offices. And when the guy came to fix it, he had 3 guys helping them. Probably they were between 12 to 15. And they were still school time. And I was like, guys, are you not, going to school this morning? No, we're helping out. It's not working for us. And I was like, my goodness, they're only 12, probably. But, many of our kids here in Atlanta, our Latino kids, the families are hungry. During the pandemic, our Latino families could not get access to food because they were undocumented. So the kids were going to work to sustain their families. So there's one layer there. And then the layer of them not feeling engaged in school. Maybe they don't find somebody that understands the language or the culture. So there's so many issues that our Latino kids are facing that are alienating them from school, from reading, from getting engaged, that programs like this are great opportunities for us to find a way of re-engaging them in the process. We started an educational program. And one of the neat things that our teachers did was just give the kids, as part of the language arts curriculum, all books that were written by either Latino authors or about Latino characters. What the kids felt the first time they read about, you don't realize that they have never read about somebody that looks like them. So obviously they wanted more. Do you have another book? Mr. Jonathan, do you have another book like that? So we started finding books everywhere and buying them for the kids. Because it was so culturally important for them, so that they could feel like there are many people that are out there that have done great things that are Latino.
And you've got to find out, we're reaching them where they are, and that's the kind of thing.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, absolutely, because you focus on diverse sets of books.
When I started this journey, most of my efforts were looking in the mirror and saying, okay, how do I get that person? Because that was the experience that I had, and I knew the consequences for people who looked like me who didn't have this tool. But I had a good friend expose me to this very true statement, is that poverty is the ultimate equalizer. The effects of poverty doesn't care the color of your skin. The effects of poverty doesn't care if you have a mother, a father, auntie, or uncle. Doesn't care if you have 1 book, 20 books. Poverty does not care. The effects of poverty will get you regardless of any of those categories. And it's when I realized that through having conversations with organizations like Worldreader that I began to understand that to read really is to extend your arms out for everyone who needs that resource.
Yep.
And that's why my foundation in the last few years has begun to move in a very multicultural direction, because I now understand that poverty is the ultimate equalizer and reading is that cure. I believe that. That's my opinion.
Yeah, we just got to get everybody to believe that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a hashtag. I don't know. We know that if Sandeep had been able to be here, she would have represented Literacy Action. And so with not having her here, let's talk about your recent partnership with the Barbara Bush Foundation and what that all means. They're focused on adult and family literacy.
That's right.
I guess.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I was very lucky to be asked to be on the board of the Barbara Bush Family Literacy Foundation about a year ago. And I mean, as we've already talked about, the idea of partnership is incredibly important. We've got too many people in the world doing things at a small scale. And if we really want to move the needle, we got to work together. So in fact, I was just at a board meeting 2 days ago in Washington, D.C., where they made the decision as a board to partner with us to do work that collaborates between child and adult. A lot of the work we do, again, if you think about how you learn to read and how you got excited about it, a lot of it involves your parents, right? It's not you alone, it's your parents reading to you and your parents encouraging you. And so they saw the collection of books we have, which are books from all around the world. Just as a quick sort of side note, one of the things we've heard as we've started to do work here in the United States is that kids in Appalachia, because we do some work there, look and say, I've never seen a person named Kofi before. I've never seen, I don't know, this is really new and interesting to me. And then meanwhile, we have kids in the Bronx who are saying, wow, these kids look like me. These kind of remind me of myself. And so we have this whole idea that books have to start out as mirrors before they become windows. You got to be able to see yourself in those books. And the Barbara Bush Foundation said, you have books about people and experiences that nobody else has. And it's digital, which is less intimidating and more current. So we're doing some work with families and kids reading together. We think it's super important, and just can't wait to get started.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. It occurs to me that the main thing is to get them started reading, and if looking at their device is the way to get them in, once they get in, they don't realize it's 300 pages they're reading if they're older.
That's right, exactly.
Because they're starting that.
That's right.
So, Davida, I want to talk a little bit. It's time to get the readers that learn fastest and easiest. We know it's that time. And First Readers, the organization that you lead, makes sure that the children they serve have books in hand from birth until they are 5 years old. So we talk about building this habitat of love, and reading does that for young minds. But so how can David and Malcolm and the rest of us here all help to reinforce the kind of work that you do?
Well, I'm delighted to be a part of this conversation, and what our focus is birth to 5, and our guide. But we do in-home delivery of books. So our goal, or else we deliver it to the classroom. So children get our books one of 2 ways. But our goal and the essence of our program is parent engagement. We talk about inspiration, and we talk about inspiring children to read, but we have to inspire parents to engage. That academic readiness is as much a part of the work that we do, and our goal is that we start those initial conversations, those conversations that have to start in the home with the parent, in the home with that caring adult, be it a grandparent or even an older sibling, to actually get the child prepared to hold the book so that they can hold the phone and that they can hold the book. We want to make sure that they can do both. But when children start receiving our books, if they start at birth, By the time they're 5 years old, they have an at-home library of at least 60 books that are age appropriate, that are diverse, that grow with the children. But each book also includes a reading guide that's geared toward the parent, and parent engagement is very specific to the book, and it teaches parents how to have those initial academic conversations, because we talk about the gap. What happens when students enter school and they're unprepared? What happens when parents are intimidated even by the homework process? So our goal with the reading guide that goes along with that, the books that the children receives, is to also inspire the parents to not be afraid to be the teacher, to not be afraid to have those 10-minute lessons that go along with the book, so that they're not only inspiring this child to read, but they're inspiring the parents to be a part of that academic process. And our goal with that is so that when they get to kindergarten, when they get to first grade, parents have already started having those early conversations, and they learn how to interpret information along with their children, as opposed to they've never engaged in their child's academic readiness. They've never engaged in literacy. They don't know how many words their children can speak, but now parents are moving along that process before it actually counts for a report card. So we figure if we can get those conversations started from birth to 5, then we are inspiring and engaging parents to be a part and take ownership in that process, that learning process for the students.
Oh, I love that. Before we go any further, I want to make sure if you have questions, you're writing them on cards. We have a few cards, raise them up. Somebody will pass them along to me, and you'll get a chance to ask questions. It occurs to me that a lot of parents, and I know this from going into schools, they don't understand how to work with their kids. And so giving them the resources on how to read and how to do those things, because if people didn't read to them when they were young,
right.
if they didn't have that kind of role model, they don't know how they're supposed to do it, how often they're supposed to do it, and that kind of thing. That's why at a lot of schools they have those family learning centers just to teach parents how to do that. So I think that's
Can I
good.
tag on to that real fast? I mean, it's just such an important piece for everyone to remember that particularly, think of COVID, guys. All of a sudden, COVID, parents are being asked to serve the role of a teacher and a coach, and a lot of them feel underprepared or intimidated or worse. And so we do something very similar to what you guys do. We have 3 activities per book. One's a social emotional learning activity, one is a play activity, one is a reading kind of phonics or vocabulary reading skills activity. And it's really as much about giving the parent permission to engage in this as anything else. So important, yeah.
I want to tag on to something. Can I get comfortable?
Yes.
Okay, let me get comfortable.
Are you get comfortable?
There's this, and everything you said is absolutely correct
Yeah.
from both ends. But something that I work with my team to understand is that majority of the kids that we, Share the Magic Foundation, are going after, I always tell them anytime we're devising a plan, it's to understand that you're reaching out to kids or families who may not care.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
When I was 10 years old, if you came to me and you said, here's a book, you should read it, I would say, so what? I got football practice. I ain't got time to be reading no book. Right? I have one of my best friends growing up right now is serving life in prison. He didn't have his mother, he didn't have his father, he had his grandmother, and his brother's in prison with him.
Yep.
Can we make a few assumptions here, but I can almost guarantee, even if we took this book and we gave it to his mother, which we had programs do that,
Yeah.
she didn't care.
Yep.
Right? So the question is, how do you even attract that person? How do you get that child? And maybe the adult, I don't have enough information to draw any conclusions on that, but I know that child still needs our attention and our love, and we have to convert that person too.
That's right.
Because that's all that I saw. And I was just that lucky one who had athletics.
You're absolutely right. You have to partner with the voices that matter.
That matter to the kids.
You have to partner with the voices that matter, because parents don't always, what we learned in the model that we had to really take a hard look at the age of our current parents.
Yeah.
You know, what's important to them.
Right.
Academics was important to my parents.
Right.
But to your point, it's not always, we can't always assume that it's going to be important to the parents that we serve. So reaching those voices that can be the voices that this generation respects, the voices that these parents respect, and reaching them through the methods that they're accustomed to getting their information, so that we can then teach them how to engage. Because that's the point. You know, you're right. We can have brochures, we can have programs, we can have all of these things available. But if parents don't value the educational process, then we may be sending books that may stay packaged up, or may or access students through an app that they may never open up. So really being able, we have the tools that they can enhance their academic process, but reaching the voices that matter to them. Because I can tell you right now, I text my children all the time. I have a college student and an older son who just graduated. If I tell them I'm going somewhere, they don't care. If I tell them you were here, suddenly I have credibility. So you have to think about that when we're delivering our information, not assuming that parents will automatically receive it, but getting those voices to be advocates and speak to it, so that when we come in, they're expecting us and they understand the value.
Yeah, that's what we're so glad
You're a
doing this
champion.
now. That's it. That's it. Okay, so some questions
That's
from our
awesome.
audience.
That's awesome.
Pause is appropriate, yes. So some more. So with this question, what does the NGO do with African American churches? Are you guys doing outreach at all? Anybody? I think that the feeling is African American churches are always considered a good way of promoting anything.
Absolutely. I was
Super
saying today,
fun.
it's a part of we reach our families through community action teams at the local level. So I can say it's very deliberate for us and very intentional in the counties that we serve. We always go to the retired educators, and we always go through our places of faith. And so a lot of time, and we also go through Greek organizations that are located in those areas to partner with the educators and those people who can speak to all of the communities that we serve, including African.
What about the Latino churches?
Oh, they are super important in every outreach that we do, because these are the people that, to our point, people listen to. So yes, we always try to outreach to them, and not only outreach to them, because we use that term very loosely, is really make them part of the work, using their voice, informing them, giving them a place as part of the program itself, sometimes going to their churches and doing the program there. So they feel like we're assigning value to who they are and the place they have in the community. So it's so important that we put everybody at the table and give everybody the same voice at the table.
One of the questions came up about cell phones in some of the villages you go into. What do you do when they don't have them?
What's so interesting is, so we started about 10 years ago, 12 years ago now. And at the time, we were using Kindles. So I was, for those of you who don't know, I was at Amazon in the very, very early days, back in 1996, actually. It was a tiny little bookstore. And I helped build the Kindle team up for the early days. So I knew those guys well.
Yes, as an early Kindle reader, I thank you.
Thank you. That's
there was somebody to thank. I thought I was going to have to meet Jeff Bezos.
There we go. Yeah, exactly right. He had some people working for him, which is things. So anyway, and so that was the device we used for a long time, to really make sure that every single child had a device of his or her own to use. But what we have found over the last couple of years is, and this sounds funny, but it's true, there are more cell phones on the planet than there are, toilets right now. I mean, it's insane. How many people here have a cell phone? But that's true in Kenya, Ghana. It's true, and I've got on my wrist, I've got the Kenyan flag because I spend a fair amount of time in Kenya. In fact, it is more often the case that people have 2 cell phones than they will have 0 cell phones. So, funnily enough, I shouldn't say funny, one of the nice things about working with technology is it's wind at all of our backs, and it's where we're all going to be spending all of our time in the future, and so we sort of got to get there.
You could have one thing, one wish to further advance your work, what would it be? And how can we help? You love that question.
That's a nice question. That's a nice question.
Great.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Should each of us answer that question?
Yeah, I think that would be good. How can you help? You want a moment? Maybe we're gonna.
Yeah, let me think about that.
All right.
Yeah, I think probably all of us.
I mean, the obvious, we're a 501c3, so all donations help. But let me think even deeper.
Yeah.
But feel free to donate.
All right.
There we go.
I think that for me, it goes back to the partnerships. I'm using the example of a different program and a different service. Most of the big advances that we have done as an organization working with domestic violence have been partnering with organizations that serve the African American community in Atlanta, because the experiences of Latinos in Atlanta are very similar to the experiences of our Black families in Atlanta. And the way Black families work, they are very similar to the way that Latino families work. So for us, leaning on their expertise, on their knowledge, so the opportunity of creating those meaningful partnerships and really being able to lean on each other and support each other in meaningful ways. We were talking about a great partnership we have with another Latino organization. During the pandemic, it proved, a life-saving thing for our families. So in this instance, reading and education, leaning on each other and supporting each other's goals, I think it would become more and more important for our children.
That's good.
And I would say, commit yourselves to becoming a literacy advocate. And as we were talking during this conversation, I was thinking we celebrate various, and we decide what we're going to celebrate. If it's a show, or if it's if it's something that we're going to wear, we decide what we will celebrate and what we will promote. I think we all have an opportunity, because as you were talking, I was sitting and thinking, I don't have small children right now, but I do have some kids that I love that are always in my presence. So one thing I could do is to make sure I download the apps or download some books, and when I hand a child my phone, making sure that I can open a book and have a conversation with them. So use that time wisely to promote literacy. If it can be, I'm one of these people, I'm always going to give a person a book. It can be a college graduate that just finished studying. I'm going to give you a book and something else. But just being one to promote literacy, and also to be that one person who has an example. Make sure that when you're on the phone, that you're actually reading a book too, and kind of exemplifying that behavior to the children that are around you, but also that you're also holding books and you talk about and making literacy a part of the conversation, because I've learned that children embrace the conversations that we have. And so if I can show them that literacy matters, whether it's digital literacy, whether it's hard copy literacy, whatever it is, if I make that a natural part of my conversation, then I'm a promoter of literacy. And I think we can all do that. That's so simple.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I mean, you guys have said amazing things, and I guess I'm going to get a little bit meta here on all of us for a second. Look, all of us we're all bombarded constantly, right, with different issues, different causes, different things that are concerning to us. This one really matters, and it really matters now for the reasons you were talking about early, Donna. It's like this last year has been devastating for so many kids. Kids have dropped out of the system, kids have lost their way, kids are getting off track and they can't get back on track. But we've got the tools, right? We've got the tools. We've got where we can meet kids where they are. And so I guess all I would say is for every single person here, and I don't want to make everyone uncomfortable, but maybe I do just a little bit. Don't just sort of go away and kind of nod and say that was an interesting presentation and I learned something about it. Commit to do something about it. Commit to do something. Every single person has a resource. You've either got some money, which you can give us, and that'll be very helpful because otherwise we can't do our work, or you've got a relationship that might be important. Look at Biden over there. Raise your hand for 1 second. Okay, Biden is a electrical engineer by training, but I think of him as like a power grid. Okay, what do I mean by that? This is a guy that's got connectivity to every single important person you want to know. And so all I have to do with and all he has to do with me is say, I've got someone you want to connect with, and I'll connect you, and then the rest happens. The energy starts to flow between the two of us. Where's Dwight Smith? Dwight's back there. Dwight and Worldreader have known each other now for a couple of years. Dwight runs an organization called My Special Word. My Special Word focuses on building empathy in kids by having every child choose a word of his or her own. Those partnerships came through introductions from friends. So look, every single person here has some capacity to help, and I will tell you now, lean into it, feel good about it, because you're making the world a better place, I guarantee it.
All right,
You came up with
There you go.
bear with me. I'm gonna take you on a ride, but I want to bring you back home. Most of my life was spent in sport. This is where this analogy comes from. It's not an analogy. I think it was the truth. I read it in the book. Spartans, when Spartans went off to war, the mother would go to either the husband or the son, depending who was going, and she'd go to them and she'd say, "Come back on your shield." Now, what does that mean? Well, what she was insinuating was that you're going to go out here, and when you go out here, you give it everything you got to the best of your ability. You don't come back here until you've reached that point. You either give it all while you're out there in the field, and when you come back, you have nothing left. That's my approach to ensuring that every child in this world really understands the importance of literacy, to go out there and don't come back until I accomplish the goal, right? But the truth is that takes structure. That takes organization. It takes resources. And all those things require financial structure.
It does.
It does. It's just no way around it. You have to have some financial backing to move the needle. And I hate to say that because at one point in time I didn't agree with that until I started working full time with the foundation. And, and then I realized, well, yeah, maybe that's true.
There's no,
right? And I think you're absolutely right. It doesn't have to be if a single individual doesn't have the money to contribute, that's completely understandable. If you can connect, if you can connect us, if you can lead us, if you can guide us in an avenue that's going to allow us to stay out there and reach more children, I think that's what I would want that more than anything else, because I do want to do this for the rest of my life. And I promise you, and I mean this humbly, if I'll go get them. I will get every single one of them, no matter how long it takes.
You guys have been great. This has been fabulous. I'm not going to get all the questions, but the great thing is we're going to have this connection part with the desserts, and you'll be able to ask those questions.
Great.
But there is one question, real quick, and
Yep.
all I want is one answer.
Yep.
And that is, somebody asked, what was the most transformational book that you read? Each one of you. Come on. I know
Ooh, you got to give us 15 seconds to think about
Okay. Well,
kinda cheating.
maybe that didn't really.
that. Yeah, right? Transformation.
Okay, so mine was Little Women. When I was a kid, I probably read it 5 times. I can't tell you how many. And Joe is a journalist, one of the characters. So mine was easy.
I will say mine was a book about George Washington Carver.
Okay.
Because, can I say why?
Yes.
I attended a school where I was the only black little girl in my class. And I remember going to the library and finding that book and being so moved by his story. I checked it out until so many times that I maxed it out at the library. And the librarian told me I couldn't check it out anymore. But that story just transformed everything for me. And so it was a wonderful time, experience for me.
Yeah, for me it's Paula by Isabel Allende. It is about her watching as her daughter dies of a disease. And for me, family is the center of my life. So it's a reflection on her and her family and her values. And so many parts of the book make me laugh and made me cry and made me reflect on my own family. So, Paula.
Okay, I'll let you guys go unless you know.
No, for sure. Oh, I got all kinds of things. Yeah. I'll give you actually a model. I just thought, if you haven't read A Promised Land, you got to read A Promised Land. Barack Obama's book. You do. And I'll tell you what, for me, it's personal, not just in the fact that, look, it feels like you get inside the President of the United States' brain. But I'll tell you a little story. So I was born to an African-American man and a white woman. There are not many people this is 1965 when I was born, and I felt alone for a lot of growing up. I didn't feel like I fit in on either side, on the black or white side. And people would ask me this question, they'd say, what are you? And it was a complicated and confusing question. It really wasn't until much later in my life, looking at Barack Obama, there's a guy of mixed race, and understanding that he can be a powerful man and can understand that he's got both in him and they're both a source of real power. And then reading his words as a father, reading his words as a president, incredibly moving to me.
I love it.
Incredibly
Did you
moving.
come up with it as the book you wrote? The first
I should do some marketing here, but no, it is a picture book, and the title of the picture book is Exclamation Mark. It was written by Amy Krauss Rosenthal, she's passed away from cancer. The reason I'm selecting that book is because I remember being 19 years old, standing in Barnes & Noble in Athens, Georgia, picking up that book to build my confidence to be a reader. And inside that book, there's an exclamation mark who's hanging out with periods and question marks and commas and colons. And he doesn't see his value. He does not see his value. He does not see his importance. He feels left out. And then one day he opens his mouth and he can do something that no one else can do, and that's speak loudly.
That's awesome.
And for me,
That's awesome.
in that moment, in that moment, I felt like everyone, including myself, the little black boy from Valdosta, Georgia, who could barely read, had value. And if I opened my mouth, maybe I could make a difference.
Woo! And he's doing it. What a way to end it. I'm glad we waited till you were on. Can we give a round of applause to everybody up here? You guys were wonderful. Everything. I've enjoyed this so much. You're keeping to task, and he's keeping me on task. So thank you all. My last task here is I get to introduce the man who was at my table, treasured member of the Atlanta community, sports stars, also a member of the Worldreader U.S. Advisory Council. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Dennis Scott.
Since I'm taller than you guys.
Yes.
Yeah. How's everybody doing? Good. Well, thank you, Donna. It's a pleasure to be here today. And just sitting here listening to all the stories, and I don't know which one to tell, David. So I'm just going to start off by saying, similar to you, Malcolm, growing up in a small town called Hagerstown, Maryland, right outside of Washington, D.C., and being raised by a single mom, the poverty word, right? I asked my mom, I said, why are you working 3 jobs? I never see you. She said, I don't have my GED. I said, huh? What's the GED? So think about that for a second. You're 12, 13 years old, you're going outside, you wonder why you're living in the situation you're living in. You don't know where your father is, right?
Correct.
But you see your mom get up every morning at 6 a.m. and you don't see her anymore until about 9 o'clock that night. So that's the first thing I learned, that's hard work. So that was instilled in me early, the hard work, check that box. So then I get to public school, now I'm the height I am now, almost 6'8", and I noticed that there were certain kids reading, and there were certain kids goofing off. Very similar. Where were we? We were goofing off. And then it came a point where we learned eligibility. Well, at that small school out in Leesburg, Virginia called Loudoun County, just keep playing. Don't worry about that. Okay. I'm 14 years old. I'm at this height. And now that y'all know my history, I was pretty good. So that school said, don't worry about it. And then finally, a private school called my mom, Flint Hill Prep, now it's in Oakton, Virginia. And they said, we want your son. And I knew who they were. I told you some of the story last night, but I really wanted to go to DeMatha because they were the powerhouse back then in the Washington, D.C. area. My mom said, I'm not driving around 495, which is very similar to 285 here. Y'all know traffic, right? Mom said, I'm not doing that. This little hoopty's not gonna make it. Not going. So Flint Hill says, well, Miss Scott, we know your situation. We're gonna do you a favor. We're gonna give you a scholarship, but there's one thing your son has to do. And if he does this, it'll be better than anything he does on the court. So I'm like, what's going to be better than shooting threes and scoring in somebody's face? Right? What's going to be better? He said, you have to go to class and you got to read. Excuse my French. Oh, hell no. I don't want to go to this school. So then you start looking around you, and that's when the word mentors come in. The math teacher, the local car dealership guy, the guy that owned the car wash. Then you start learning ownership. I said, well, how did you get this? Well, son, one day you might blow out that knee. There's only one thing that's going to stick with you until the good Lord calls your name to come home. That's the Southern in me right there. I said, what is that? Education. As long as you learn how to read and educate yourself, you will be fine. So then I looked at my transcript. I was barely getting a 1.8. I was like, we gotta get 2.0 back in, right? I'm like, y'all still want me? So then it went from hard work, learning about education, now I feel wanted. And all of the kids in America want to feel wanted. And if we as parents start first of showing our children we want them to be better, and reading is a valuable tool to guarantee you can get better. There's not too many guarantees in life, right? So I said, guarantee? No one's never guaranteed anything, as long as we play sport, right?
Right.
So then I went from a insecure, he was like, wait a minute, me insecure? Yes, outside of basketball. When I was on the basketball court, do whatever, whenever, how long. Dennis, come to the front of the classroom. Can I go to the bathroom? How many of your kids do that, right? When something gets uncomfortable, can I go to the restroom? Right? We all have kids, we've heard that before. So then, my math teacher says, if you sit in front of the classroom, I never forget this, like certain story that stick with you forever. You will learn more if you never even open the book versus if you sit in the back of the classroom, half sleep, I guarantee you're not gonna learn anything. So I said, wow, let me try this. And who's on the first two rows, Malcolm? The valedictorians, all the smart kids, all the kids get A's and B's, like, I want to be a nerd now, yes. I'm going to the front of the classroom. So leaving the public school, going to the private school, challenging me is how I was able to get into Georgia Tech. Because there's no way, in God's name, if I'd have stayed where I was going, doing what I was doing, there's no way I got to Georgia Tech. There's no way. There's no way. So that's my reading story. Now for business, Don, you'll love this. So this is my 14th year now at NBA TV and TNT. And I'm the only guy, not Charles, not Shaq, not Kenny, that's had his own show that can read the teleprompter for a whole hour. You know how hard that is. When the teleprompter freezes on you, you look, you're like, I gotta keep on talking. The teleprompter's kept freezing, I gotta keep talking. Yes, but that comes from being challenged from public school to private school and saying, go to class and read. If I didn't get challenged early, there's no way I'd be able to read teleprompter right now. And last but not least, you already called out Bai. Bai, I think we met, 20 years ago, maybe something like that now? And Bai is the reason I'm here. Bai is that connectivity Dave's talking about introduction, same mind, same energy that Malcolm and I spoke about earlier. And now I'm about action. So that's my last thing is, David. We're here. Are we here just to meet and talk and hey, and then tomorrow we're going to do something else with no action to why we're here? Then I don't want to be here. So think about that for a second. So Malcolm, you'll like this story too. Last one I'll leave you with. So someone said, did you see Ernie Johnson's speech to the University of Alabama? Sorry about that, Alabama.
Well, you already mentioned Tech, so
At least we know y'all killers. So I watched it. And I've been knowing Ernie Johnson for 30 years. He was working in the local channel 2 when I was at Tech. Personal friends. So I've heard Ernie say a lot of great speeches. So I'm not going to watch it. Then my friend said, no, 3D, you might want to watch this. This is right up your alley. So make a long story short, the message was, I didn't have to be here today. I didn't really want to be here today. But I get to be here today. So Malcolm's story and my story is very similar. We don't have to go back and talk to these kids because we got kids of our own. I got 4 kids. I don't want to talk to 1 million kids every day, but I get to. I get a chance to share what I've been through, what hard work is, what believing in yourself is, and it really does work. And I was teasing because my daughter took her to school yesterday morning. She just doop, looking at her phone, tick-tocking, doop. Logan, you okay? Yep, Dad. Why? Everything you taught me. Why? I opened up the book last night. I did what I was supposed to do so I can do what I want to do. Fist pump, have a great day. Love y'all. Thank y'all for having me. David, Malcolm, I look forward to many more luncheons.
Yeah.
And let's get to that billion.
Let's get to 1 billion kids.
2 billion.
Let's do it together, you guys. 2 billion nights.
Rebecca, it's all yours.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Dennis. Wow, it's hard to come after that, but I have the joy of thanking everyone in the room today, because you guys are a partner. And as B started off, you're friends of us.
Yeah.
And as Dennis just gave us our call to action, we are here because we're committed to action around literacy. Donna, thank you so much for your time today and for leading us and moderating the session. Felisa and Davida, we look forward. We've already begun conversations as organizations, and we're excited to see how we can build that connectivity and leverage each other for greater impact. And Malcolm, we have a special gift for you.
Uh-oh.
No, we'll get you excited. It's hard to beat the rings, you know? You can only do that. But actually, this is just a symbol of our appreciation about the partnership that we're launching and the vision to really try and reach 70,000 plus kids. And to do so in a way that brings influencers together, your voice, Dennis's voice, Bai's voice, Elizabeth's voice in the back. So many opportunities that we can have. So I have a little picture of appreciation. Are you going to hold it for me?
There you go. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That is beautiful.
In recognition of our partnership.
Thank you.
Yes.
Oh,
Whoa.
watch yourself.
Wait, we
It's
got a lot
okay.
going on here.
I drunk it all. It's okay.
No, this is really just to symbolize, you know, how much we appreciate the partnership, what this is today, that we in Atlanta can come together and really seed some change that we know our children need so dramatically as we are today.
Yeah.
And I also have the joy, before we close, to welcome Lonnie Johnson, which I can't find him right now. Where are you, Lonnie?
Partnerships.
Ah. Great. No. Lonnie, for you, you wanted to say something. Yes, please. So much. I'm so sorry. Please come have a word.
Greetings, everybody. My name is, I'm trying to come over here so everybody can see me. My name is Dwayne The Rock Ramos. I'm an intuitive life coach, music producer. I'm also here via Bai. Bai is someone I've been knowing for over 25 years. And when he mentioned this to me, it was important for me to be here because as an intuitive life coach, what I'm doing is I am speaking to like a lot of my clients are celebrities, and I reflect back to their childhood. And it's important as us to we reach the children and speak to them on a conscious level and a subconscious level. The biggest thing which we need to do is put when we speak to these children and their parents, have them put flashcards while they're brushing their teeth, eye level, I'm amazing. It starts with the confidence, it starts building up with the self-esteem, starts knowing who they are. And because when they get out into society, the parents' job is like, it's not done, but they're competing with the public and what's being taught at home. And there's not enough education being taught at home, so it's, again, it takes a village to raise people. So what I encourage is speak to children and people while they sleep. Tell them you are educated, you are powerful, you're amazing, you're somebody, you're special. And we teach them from a subconscious level, then it becomes conscious, and then it's second nature for them to just want to pick up a book and read, and because you have to tell them that they have the ability. Even if they don't have the ability, when you tell yourself you got it, your mind goes into high gear to go and attract it and to get it. So I just wanted to come up here to express to you guys, I'm honored to be here. This room is filled with a vibration of love, prosperity, success, happiness, peace. And the vibration is very, very high. And every single one, we all have testimonials, but it'd be real good if every single one of us write a book about our journey, because we are somebody else's hope and motivation and inspiration. My name is Dwayne. Thank you for having me here.
We are going to conclude by offering you dessert and time to mingle and get to know each other. We trust you've had a great opportunity, and we will be in touch. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Should we take a picture of the panel?